What is it going to take? What is it going to take for this country to wake up and realize that we have gun violence abound? It's almost like it's the total destruction of society, and nobody wants to do anything about it. Can't have background checks, can't register guns, can't do anything. It's just, they want us all armed, I guess. It's a familiar American story, and the rest of the world is looking at us saying, you know, they just can't get it together, can they? 14 people dead, 17 injured, another shooting at the Inland Regional Social Services Center in San Bernardino, California. Social services. We don't know the motive. We know that the attack was well planned, well coordinated, and the perpetrators were well armed. And there are people who are deceased that were involved in the attack. This is the San Bernardino, California Police Chief Robert Greenwald talking about how they were well armed when they showed up.
Preliminary information indicates that these are people that came prepared, that they were dressed and equipped in a way to indicate that they were prepared, and they were armed with long guns, not handguns. I do not know what type of long guns. Rifles? I don't know. Have any of those weapons been recovered here at the scene? We do not have any weapons recovered at this point.
This has become a habit in this country. It's almost daily news. The president is sick of it. He addressed in an interview with CBS on Wednesday afternoon what we have to do about mass shootings in this country.
The one thing we do know is that we have a pattern now of mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world. And there's some steps we could take, not to eliminate every one of these mass shootings, but to improve the odds that they don't happen as frequently. Common sense gun safety laws, stronger background checks.
And the president also addressed what has been a big conversation in this country about everybody so concerned about terrorism, but nobody wants to do anything about firearms.
And, for those who are concerned about terrorism, some may be aware of the fact that we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing that we can do to stop them. That's a law that needs to be changed.
Joining us now is Robert Greenwald of Brave New Films, who has done a lot of work on gun violence in this country with his organization. Robert, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Ed. It's good to be with you on this another tragic, horrible day. By the way, this is the 355th mass shooting this year, so it's more than one a day.
355 shootings to date in this country. And yet we just don't have the political will to do anything about it, Robert, do we?
Well, we haven't had the political will to take on the NRA and the gun companies, and the NRA is a lobbying force for the gun companies who so far have been obscenely committed to doing anything and everything to stop gun laws that would be common sense and practical and that most of the country is in favor of. But we're working on a campaign at Brave New Films. There's going to be a full-length documentary. There's going to be we've done a bunch of shorts. There are going to be more coming. I mean, we did a short video, Ed. In Florida, pediatricians are not allowed to ask their patients questions about are there guns at home. I mean, it's stuff that you wouldn't believe would happen. But I think that, or I believe, or I hope, as the tragedies, which are so horrible, increase, people are more and more concerned about their safety, and it becomes a question, wait a minute, is it my safety and my family's safety at church or at school? Isn't that worth something?
It has to be worth something. And the mindset of Americans is certainly turning because of what we're going through and the horrid number that you had put out. This is the president, cut 5 if we can, talking about how the Congress has got to do something to curb this.
But what we do know is that there are steps we can take to make Americans safer, and that we should come together in a bipartisan basis at every level of government to make these rare as opposed to normal. We should never think that this is something that just happens in the ordinary course of events, because it doesn't happen with the same frequency in other countries.
We just do not have lawmakers in this country in enough number to make a legislative decision for the positive to do something about this problem in this country. That's really what it boils down to, because the lobbying arm of the organizations that you've mentioned, Mr. Greenwald, clearly are so strong they can run people out of a job.
Well, they have been. Again, some of it is turning. It's awful and it's slow, but what a lot of the gun organizations that are working on this and people who care about it, what they've been doing, they've been focusing on the state level, Ed. So there have been a series of legislative victories, of ballot initiatives, of laws getting passed in a bunch of states, and I think that will continue. Now, there also absolutely has to be national laws. One of the things we investigate in our film, is the gun violence in Chicago, and everyone says, oh, it's because something's wrong with Chicago. Nonsense. It's because there's no national law against gun trafficking. I was in Chicago. You drive 15 minutes across the border to Indiana, you go to a gun show, you buy as many guns as you want, and you bring it back. Those are the cases where you do need national laws, but in the meantime, there is action on the state level, an increasing number of states that are doing something about, what's really a kind of insanity.
Well, the American people are way ahead of Washington on this. That is, there is no question about that. Where do we go from here? I mean, this state of terrorism, as you know, we have one presidential candidate who thinks that we should just take innocent people and shoot them. And that is Donald Trump, of course, saying that we've got to go after their families. When you see this being as coordinated as it is, when you see pipe bombs being thrown, a police chase, who knows what the motive was. But this is a crazy world we're living in right now. And the rhetoric in the political arena, your take on this, Robert, it certainly isn't. It certainly is feeding into this kind of behavior, I think.
No, there's no question about it. It makes it on some strange level for a subset of people socially acceptable. And one of the things we found in the gun culture world, Ed, is, there's a real belief that the government is coming, among a small subset, the government is coming to take away guns. Now, that's nonsense. It's paranoia, and it's fear stoked by people like Trump, by the NRA, by the gun companies. But, when you have Trump who, says more horrific things by the day in some crazy effort to keep the public attention on him, it certainly doesn't help the fact. On the other hand, it does, I hope and believe, Ed, is going to motivate more and more people. I talked to somebody in the White House last week about the gun stuff, and fairly high level, and he said they've done a lot of research and obviously a lot of thinking about this, and one of the things they found is when there's a gun tragedy, people like us and our emotions, we care very strongly. But when it's out of the headlines, a day, a week, several weeks, then our caring and intensity goes down. Mm-hmm. But the people who are committed to selling guns and making guns and protecting guns, their intensity continues for a longer period of time. And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to keep the intensity up to protect our families.
Always doing great work. Brave New Films, Robert Greenwald with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Good to have you with us, Robert. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.